Seemed like a good term for what this was. This is what the remains, and we're told this is a collapse, that the beams or the columns buckled. There was too much weight for the temperature they were. They're hot. Why are these still straight? If you whack down on the whole building, they should buckle, right? You put this weight on these outer columns, they should bow and bend around the horizontal axis. Mash down them real hard, they should bow outward. Here are those columns, they're bent around the vertical axis. And that does look like, to me, looks like a rolled up carpet. That looks like a lasagna noodle. How do you load a beam or a column like that to get it to do that? Again, straight columns, but bent around, curled around the vertical axis. More curling, no cracks in that turn. I don't even know if you could do this with heat. And this one is really bizarre. It was in the Bankers Trust building, which was said to have had no fires. How do you load this beam to make it do that? Yeah, that's how buckling looks. Is one mode, another mode. It doesn't do that. You have these see-through holes over there, wrinkled. This is weird. This looks more like a curling ribbon. Here's a beam or column from the World Trade Center, and here's a sample that John Hutchison produced. See anything similar? There are a lot of similarities with this. So I contacted John Hutchison. First thing I sent him, I included this image and said, "Does your neighborhood ever get to looking like this?" It says he's always setting up car alarms and some other interesting things. You have this toasted car, and in front of it, cars just parked upside down. All of the marble is missing, marble facade, but doesn't appear to be any stab wounds through the building, through the rest of the facade. And notice this window, you have the outer pane broken, but not the inner pane. Baseball doesn't do that. Flying, trash doesn't do that. Something else is weird there. Evidence of levitation.
Cell tower came down, I was across the street, and I picked up the camera just out of habit. And something in the back of my mind said, run, run, run. And never in 20 years of shooting in New York have I run from an assignment. But something in the back of my head just said, run. And as I hit the corner of Liberty Street, it was almost being picked up by a tornado. Almost being picked up
by a wave.
It was like being picked up.
The black cloud.
That black cloud had substance. It was like night, but it had a solid feel to it. It was like gravel, hot gravel, and just picked me up and tossed me about a block. At one second I was running, and the next second I was airborne. And I lost my glasses, I lost my cell phone, I lost my pager, but managed to hold on to both cameras.
But it threw you for a block?
I was back down at Ground Zero last week and walked the area where I have a pretty good recollection of where I was and where I wound up, and it was just under a city block.
And there was this blast of warm air. It wasn't hot. It was warm. And it picked me up and threw me up against the wall of the building that was...
You were picked up off the ground?
Physically picked up off the ground.
I remember an explosion. At that point, I got knocked out. I don't remember anything. Then I got up, and I looked out the window because the windows exploded, and the street below caved in.
We'll see something interesting later. Remember that part about the levitation. There was also an EMT who thought that, well, she floated down the stairs, and she's trying to think of how that happened. She decides she must have died and God carried her down the stairs. Because how else could somebody float down the stairs? Things were happening to these people that they had no experience before. Well, turns out John Hutchison can make water levitate. It's a toy boat he has here in a bucket of water. This is a Steve Jobs quote that I like. Good for a break at this point. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, or vilify them. But the one thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. While some may see them as crazy ones, we see genius, because the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I think it's just a beautiful quote. If you don't think you can change the world, it doesn't get changed. So let's take a break here. It's a good rest-up spot. And then we'll come back and talk about the weather. Thanks. Look forward to talking about the weather, right?